Hi, this is HeatherAsh Amara from what was formerly known as the Toltec Center of Creative Intent. How's the anticipation? It's been so fun. People keep coming to me going, what's the new name? I'm like, come on Wednesday. So today is Wednesday, June 1st, and this is our Austin Toltec MeetUp broadcast, the first broadcast globally live from our new Toltec Center. And in a minute, for those of you that are on the webinar, we're going to pan the camera so you can see all the gloriousness of the space. So today's talk is about living an impeccable life. And we're going to weave living an impeccable life into New Center and how that whole dream came to unfold as it has. It's very exciting. So just a little bit about me very quickly. Let's see. Who am I today? So 10 years ago, a group of people that had been on a spiritual path together got together and decided to create an organization, which is usually the kiss of death for many communities. But it's something that has held a really beautiful container for us through the years. And for me, creating the Toltec Center was about honoring community, because what I've seen is that when we come together, welcome, in community, what we can do on our own in terms of our healing and our staying on a spiritual path, staying on a healing path, transforming ourselves from the inside out, what we can do as individuals is so magnified when we come together as a community. Because there's all these people that support us in our new dream. And that this is what we're about, is about creating a new dream. So impeccability is part of that dream, but often we use this idea of impeccability against ourselves. So that's the first thing that I want to clean up as we move forward. I was blessed to be raised in Asia and was exposed to many different cultures and people and ways of being. So when I came to the States to go to college, it was a little bit of a shock. And it took me a while to realize that what I was missing was that sense of deep connection and intimacy that I had felt in Asia of between people as well as people's relationship to nature. And so the information that I started gathering was from many different traditions. And that's really what the center has been about over the years, is while our main path is Toltec, and that is a big part of who we are, it's one part. And so that's part of what we're going to be honoring with the new naming, is to really open to all the different aspects of who each of us is and what we bring. Because that's the beautiful thing about Toltec, is that Toltec means artist of the spirit. And to be an artist of the spirit means you don't just go, I like red. I'm going to paint everything red because it's my favorite color. We always go, I want all the palettes, all the colors to choose from. Because sometimes this one color, even if I don't like this color, is exactly what the painting needs. And when we have the choice, both in our own palette and then also in what's being modeled to us from our community. Because it's very easy for us to get fixated in this is the way the world is, and then you have a conversation with someone, you're like, whoa, their world is not like my world. And you realize maybe you like their world better in that area. So then you can gather information about it. From my studies with Don Miguel over the years around the Toltec path, there's a lot of wisdom around awareness. And that's similar to Buddhism that I grew up with, that when we come back into awareness, just that simple presence with ourself and with the beings around us, with nature, that we can then begin to look at and get really honest about not what do I wish I was dreaming, not what I wish I was experiencing, but really to stop and go, well, what am I experiencing? What do I feel internally? What is my external world? Because from that place of honest awareness, we can then choose what we want to shift. what we want to keep the same. And it's then having access to all of our tools. So the foundation of impeccability is awareness. The word impeccable means without sin. And I love Miguel's translation of the word impeccable, because what he talks about is that being impeccable means without sin is that you're not going against yourself. You're not using your word against yourself. You're not using what you're learning against yourself. And so here's the first point of clarification around living an impeccable life. Because when many of us hear the word impeccable or integrity, what I see people do is this. I'm in integrity. And there's this sense of like, that impeccable, this idea of impeccability has gotten equated with this idea of perfection. That if I'm going to be impeccable, that means I have to do everything perfectly. And who gets hold of this idea of impeccability is often our judge. And here's the thing about your judge. While you're reading all these fabulous, healing, wonderful, opening spiritual books, you know that big pile you have by your bed, that you haven't gotten to all of them, and all the ones that are in the bookshelf or in your Kindle, they basically all say the same thing, yes? It's not like there's anything that's radically different from anything else. They all pretty much say the same thing. Welcome. Find a seat if you can find one. That while you're reading these books and taking this information in, there's a little part of you that we can call the judge that is looking over your shoulder, reading with you. And what it's doing is it's gathering information to use against you later. And so as you're going, yes, I must love myself. Okay, got it. Yes, I need to be impeccable. Your judge is going, yep, you need to be impeccable. You should love yourself. You really stink at loving yourself. You're really rotten at loving yourself. That person loves themselves way more than you do. They're obviously way more evolved than you are. And impeccable, oh my God, you suck. How many of you have had this dialogue in your head at least once in your life? Once a day, many times a day. I just saw a t-shirt that says that we have 60,000 thoughts a day. So I would guess for most of us, let's be conservative, 50,000 of those thoughts are negative. Probably. Talking to us about what we haven't done, where we're not at. Not helpful. And so when we get the word impeccable, so often the judge grabs hold of that word and goes, ha ha, a weapon I can bludgeon you with. I love this word impeccable. So while you're trying to be impeccable, it's not you coming from your authenticity, it's you trying to avoid your judgment. There's a story that I share around what we call the Book of Law. I love the story. Some of you have heard it before. The Book of Law is every agreement, every belief that you've ever taken on throughout your lifetime. So it's what you took on from your parents, from your church, from your society, all the rules. So there's just one or two of those, right? Yeah. And think about it. You don't only have your dad's or the father figure personage that raised you. You also have this other person, your mom, and all her agreements. You get 2 for 1. Right? So you get all of these things. Then, welcome. Come on in. Find a spot. Good luck. Then you have your teachers. Then you have church. Then you have, and many of these things are wonderful agreements. Some of them aren't bad agreements at all. They're things that allow us to function in society. But often, as we're moving through our life, there's also the judge that is starting to use those agreements. So where it might be our authenticity going, what can I use in order to fit in to society, to be part of a whole? Pretty soon, as I see it, we start off authentic. We start off in integrity when we're little, and we start going off track. So we know we have this connection that's solid. But then we start taking on beliefs of, I'm supposed to make other people happy. I shouldn't be too loud. And we start to watch the people around us judging themselves. How many of you had parents that were judgmental? Sometimes. How many of you had parents that were really judgmental? They're not to blame, right? What were their parents like? I remember my grandpa was the best grandpa in the world. He was fabulous. He was never judgmental. He was always loving. And then I talked to some of his kids. My grandma and grandpa had 10 kids. So I talked to some of my aunts and uncles, and they just told stories of being beaten and how he was like really mean to the boys and really nice to the girls unless the girls were out of line. And I was like, my grandpa? But I realized, of course, he passed that on to them. Once it was passed on, then he could retire. Because then it was getting passed on to me, to that generation, which would then get passed on to the next generation. And it's like a really bad game of telephone. Remember that game of telephone that you guys played that when you were a kid, where you stand, you get everyone in a circle, and one person says one sentence, and then it gets passed around the circle, and it comes to the other end, it's a completely different sentence. Think about that happening through generations of what the message is you've received that's probably not even what it was intended to be. And here we are writing it down in our book of law going, okay, in order to be a good person, I need to follow all these rules. Here's the problem. You can already see it's a problem, right? Mm-hmm. Problematic already. Now imagine this. You were raised in the 50s. What's the energetic of the 50s? What are the agreements and rules in the 50s? Racism, yeah. Segregation, classism, patriotism. A big duality between men's roles and women's roles. Keeping up with the Joneses, absolutely. Always like, what do the neighbors have? We have to have that or better. What else? Authority, that you have to honor authority. Yep. What else? Couple more.
Chastity before marriage.
Chastity before marriage, exactly. So you have to be non-sexual before you're married. Then once you're married.
Chastity before marriage for women.
For women. As long as the men aren't caught. That was part of the agreement, right? So, okay, that's good. You guys got the feeling of it? So a person raised in the 50s, you can feel what their rule book has. It probably has it written in very nice handwriting. Yes? I will have 2.3 children. I will marry young. I will always have a smile on my face. Okay? I will make the money. Or I will take care of the kids. Really strong rules. So this person then goes and hits the 60s. What were the agreements and values of the 60s?
Free love.
Free love. What else?
Peace.
Peace.
Rebellion.
Protest. Rebellion. Exactly. So where before it was, what's my role? How do I fit in? The 60s was like, I'm going direct. I'm going to do exactly what I want to do. I'm an individual. Okay. What else?
Rights.
Equality, equal rights. Okay, so that struggle for finding equality. Because it didn't just happen. Yay, we're all equal. No, it was we're going to fight for equality. We're going to make that happen. Okay. Marriage? No. No. Okay. There was a lot of experimentation, so everything got blown open. So imagine what the writing looks like in that part of the person's book of law. Wow, there's probably colors and people doing drugs and expanding and finding nature and not going to church because they're going direct. Okay. So now, here's what happens with our book of law. And this is why it's so important to understand who's defining what it means to be impeccable. Because how would the person that was writing in the 50s define impeccability? Just feel it. What would be impeccable?
Following the rules.
Following the rules. That would be, I'm impeccable if I follow the rules. Is that in that person's authenticity? Not necessarily. Might be. Sometimes. Okay. How about someone in the 60s? Do not follow the rules. Break the rules. Okay, that's the energetic. In that person's integrity? No, maybe, exactly. Those of us that are free spirit are like, yes, of course. No, it's the same trap. Okay? When we're talking about impeccability, if someone from that woohoo time says, define what's impeccable is you break as many rules as you can. It's not necessarily in that person's integrity. Might be. What happens is that unless you consciously, with awareness, take the energy out of the agreements, that energy's still there, which means it's still in your being. And so here I am, I've been through the 50s, now I'm in the 60s, I've been married, I've done my dutiful job, I've gone to church, I've done all the right, I followed the rules, I've been impeccable. And then I hit the 60s. And I go, woohoo, got a divorce, I'm taking my bra off. Hey, I'm gonna fight for justice. My impeccability is free love. Here's what your judge does. In order to be a good person, you have to be really, you get married young. Oh, you're doing so well. Yes, get married young, good job. Okay, now have the kids. Oh, you had a boy. Oh my God, you're blessed. Okay, that's good. You found a good one. Great, you're doing great. You're not as good as the neighbor though. You're doing okay, but the neighbor is much better than you. I think that their household looks much better than yours does. Then you hit the 60s. Yes, get the divorce. Be free. Yes, that's it. You're doing great. Oh, what's wrong with you? You're loving a little bit too much. I think you're starting to get slutty like your mom warned you about. I can't believe you're this old and you've been divorced. Oh my God, what will they say? What it starts doing is it starts bouncing back and forth between the sets of rules. So no matter what you do, you can't be impeccable because you cannot satisfy the judge because it has different rules that it's playing with. Okay? If you think your judge is fair, I'd like you to go spend an afternoon paying attention to what it says to you. Because I think if you spend an afternoon, you will realize that your judge is so over the top, not fair. As Don Miguel used to say, if you need to punish yourself, just punish yourself once. But what does your judge do? Over and over and over again. And no matter what you do, you're not impeccable, according to the judge. Because it's going to go, oh, you've got that one, but you forgot this one on page 4. Does that make sense? You feel that? So we wonder why we have conflict in our lives. It's pretty simple. It's because what our thoughts are telling us are crazy. Okay? It's because we're crazy. Because we're trying to be impeccable based on agreements and belief systems that we took on from other people that aren't ours. And we have no idea what ours would be because we haven't investigated yet. The investigation process is messy. So if you've equated integrity, impeccability with perfection and doing it right, what are you going to try and avoid? Messes. Yes? Okay. I'm living my life. I'm not going to make any mistakes. And how do you feel when you're living your life trying not to make any mistakes? How's it feel?
Stress.
Icky, huh? Tightness, stress, you're always looking. Let's redefine impeccability. So let's separate it out from what the judge wants to do with it and come around to its true meaning, which is impeccability is learning what is your authenticity and living that. It's about exploring your nature, exploring your truth, clearing out what's not yours with love. When we try and go clean out of blame, the image I once had is like you're cleaning your beautiful white carpet, you're trying to clean it up, but you've got poo on your feet, on your shoes, so you're tracking poo as you try and clean. That's what happens when you're in blame. Okay, and then you turn around and you're like, why is it so stinky in here? Who did that? As you're tracking ick all over the place. And that's what blame does. It's another form of the judge. And then we get enlightened. I see this, oh, it's so painful. How many of you had this experience? Then you get enlightened and you learn, I'm not supposed to blame others. Okay, I'll stop blaming others. Tell me, what do you do next? Exactly. I'm not allowed to blame anyone else. I have all this blame energy I don't know what to do with. Must be me. I suck at a spiritual path. Technical term, you see I've used it twice now. It's an important one. So what happens is we turn it inward again, and we start blaming ourselves that we've got all these agreements and that, whatever. We don't look good. We're not as spiritual and enlightened as we want to be. Whatever. Okay, we don't have the right job. Oh, let's take the law of attraction, use it against ourselves. That's been really popular lately, too. I met someone that was in so much fear because she'd learned about the law of attraction, and then immediately her judge was like, oh my God, what are you attracting? Oh, you shouldn't be thinking like this. You're thinking really bad thoughts. Oh my God, what are you going to do? You're going to attract really bad things. Stop thinking these thoughts. It's so bad. And she just lived her life like, I really, but what if, I was like, honey, stop. Okay? And that was from trying to be impeccable about living the law of attraction. Okay? How's it working for you? So reclaim that energy. It's around being impeccable, is around experimenting, exploring, being curious about what's true for me. What's my truth? And it's going to be layers and layers. So if you can come to it from a point of view of experimentation, of exploring, of being curious, instead of I have to figure it out right, to go, I have no idea who I am. I have no idea what I believe in or what I like. And I have a whole bunch of agreements that I may or may not want to continue forward with. Instead of rebelling against them or trying to follow them perfectly, it's simply about I get to choose. When I have my awareness, when I come back into this present moment, I'm going to be able to choose what I want to carry forward and what I want to leave behind. Doesn't it sound simple? And it really is when we're not in judgment or we're not feeling victimized. That's the other thing I didn't talk about. It's not fair, and then I can't help it, and I like this. Okay. So that's the other place we go. If your judge isn't busy, your victim is. And the truth is they're the same thing. There's really no difference, except we feel better when we're in judgment because being a victim is kind of icky. You know, like you see other people that victims and you're like, step out of it. Okay? You know better than that. Snap out of it. Okay? Who's talking? Your judge. And I can guarantee that when you have that attitude towards other people, why do you have that attitude towards other people? Because you're doing it to yourself. And your victim is going to come out roaring one day. I've seen it. People that are the most judgmental, they're like, I don't have any of that victim stuff. And then they start cleaning up their judge. Guess who shows up? Hi! Okay. So it's about not running screaming, but turning and going, hey, who are you? Who are you? Okay, same thing with the judge. Great. Who are you? Not, who are you? I will listen to everything you say. But just, who are you? How do I act when I'm believing you? How do I act in the world when I'm believing the judge? How do I act in the world when I'm believing the victim? Do I want to continue this behavior? Yes or no? What often happens is you'll get a no, I don't want to continue this behavior. But that's not enough. Because if that was enough, we'd all be done. We'd all be outside playing in the sun right now. Right? If I could just go, I don't want to do that behavior anymore. But they're tenacious. They're tenacious. Totally possible to clear away those old beliefs And it takes energy. It takes energy. How I see it is that it takes as much energy as you've invested into the beliefs. So if you've spent 40 years of your life feeling that you weren't good enough, that means you get to gather a lot of energy up to change that belief. That's why I love community. Because you as an individual gathering that energy up, it's challenging. It's possible, absolutely possible. It's much easier to come together with a group of people that are all raising the energy, because then you can make a lot of shifts. And it's about the willingness to experiment, to make mistakes. Being impeccable doesn't mean you're never going to make a mistake. It means when you make a mistake, you go, mistake! Okay, what am I going to learn from that? And after a while, you don't even see it as a mistake. It's just, that was a choice, here's the consequence. Awesome. How's the consequence? Like it, don't like it, want to change it. Okay, next. I had this great epiphany the other day. I've been gardening a lot, and I've been going into my garden, and everyone that goes to my garden goes, you have an amazing garden. Oh my God, it's beautiful. I love it. It's so peaceful. And I walk into my garden, and I look at it, and I'm like, something's not right here. Like, something is not right. But I was listening to everyone going, whoa, you are an amazing gardener. I'm like, yeah, I'm a good gardener. But there was something off. And when I checked into it, I realized my plants are not thriving. There's something not right. And I can pretend I'll just keep putting stuff on the plants and listening to everybody else. Or I can come back into getting quiet about what needs to happen here. And what I got is, I don't know what's wrong. I just know something's off. And have you felt this in your own life, where there's a sense of like, I don't know what it is, but something doesn't feel right. Something's not sitting right in my being. I don't know what it is. Then the action is then to go, well, okay, let's get curious. Let's start asking questions. Let's start exploring. Let's start seeking in a good way. Not seeking because you're going to find the answer out there. Seeking because you're going to find the answer in here by looking out here. So I went to the gardening store. I got some gardening books. I talked to some people. And as I'm talking to this person, I'm like, I got it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. There are teachers everywhere in our lives. When we ask good questions, when we ask clear questions, and we don't go, but I know the answer, we just go, and put it out there, answers come. So I went home, took a deep breath, and ripped out most of my garden, and started over. And started over. Some of it I was able to save, but I'm like, but some of it just, it ain't savable. Out it comes. I love you, goodbye. I do that when I squish the bugs too. Hello, I love you. Here's my mantra. I'm the predator today. So, some days I'm the prey, some days I'm the predator. Cook. It's balanced. And it's like that in our old world as well. That when we feel that sense of something's not right, and we begin to then ask the question of what could it be, in an open-hearted way, in a curious way, we'll start to find the resources that'll help to point us towards something new, towards the next piece of information. Then we need to act. Because I could have gotten the information and then gone, but I don't want to touch anything in my garden, it's growing. The action sometimes is challenging. It's sometimes hard to take the action. But it's the action that creates the new reality. And it doesn't happen right away. My garden, to me, still looks... But now I look at it and I'm like, but I can feel it, it's different. Now it feels an integrity to me, regardless of what anybody else is saying. So it's finding that resonance inside of yourself of what is authenticity to me, not what is other people's definition. What's true for me? Where is it that I'm still exploring and learning and gathering information? You gather information, then you take it back and find how does it fit, and then bring it back into your life. And there's this beautiful dance that starts to happen. So that was the dance that I was within with the Toltec Center. Because for 10 years, the Toltec Center of Creative Intent has been a wonderful organization. We've been through some wee, as all organizations do. Ours were probably more dramatic than most. But through that, there's been just incredible learnings, just incredible beauty. And when we turned 10 years old, a part of me, I had this feeling in my body that said, okay, time for a big change. And I was like, but everything's going so well. And then I went, okay, let go. Let's see what this change is. And started to dream it. And this center was part of that dream. And it took us a while to get clear exactly. But I love it. February 1st, so 4 months ago, exactly, a group of us got together. It's a big group of us got together, and the message was, okay, everyone get together and dream as big as you can of what you would want with the new center. Dream as big as you can of what you would like to see. And I remember listening to people start to talk and go, we want to have a hot tub and a spa and a trampoline. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what have I done? Quick, take the power back from them. They're dreaming too big. That was great. It's like, go, go. And then it was so interesting because then the energy, it felt like it went underground. There was all this activity and all this dreaming, and there were a couple of scouts that were going out looking for the new center and looking for the energy, and somehow it just wasn't meshing. It wasn't connecting. And when it did connect, it connected so like, whoop, and we got this space, and it was like, okay, there we go. The feeling I had then in my body, and Raven was so cute about this, I told him this last week, is I said, Raven, the space is so beautiful. This was before it was done at all. I mean, it was still a mess. So I guess this was about a month ago. I was like, the space is so beautiful, and the energy is so clean and so sweet, and I have to get the organization up to the level that the center's is at. And Raven goes, honey, that doesn't exist, you realize. Like, it's not. I'm like, it totally exists right here. I feel it. But this, it's so fun to have the manifestation go, yeah, this is it. This is it. But it was that vision that everybody was holding that then invited something new to happen. And there were many parts during the process where I was like, no more newness, please. And what the feeling sense was as I was being guided around changing the name, the logo, the programming, as I sat down one weekend and just started clearing. And it was like clearing 10 years of experience, 10 years of relationships, 10 years of structures. And I kept peeling away, and it kept going, keep going. And I'm like, are you sure? Can't I just stop here? Keep going. Peeling, peeling. And it got down to the first program I created, which is called Spirit Weavers. And I was like, okay, I'll let go of everything else, but this has to stay. I mean, how many times do we bargain with Spirit? I'll do whatever you want except that. Okay, I'm willing to grow, but don't talk to me about that.